Good morning. How's everyone doing today? Happy Thursday. It is an honor to be your opening keynote and to also kick off today's forum on emerging technology. I want to obviously thank Adam Dondra for the lovely introduction. Let's all give him a round of applause. Thank you. I also want to thank Bill Maley, the TechCA Advisory Committee, and the TechCA members for bringing us all together here today. Would you agree? And of course, the lineup of the great presenters that you're going to have today that are going to highlight some of the great accomplishments that have happened over the last year. And they're also going to share a vision of where California is going and establishing a future that Californians deserve. As a state CIO, my responsibility extends way beyond managing technology. It includes establishing, forming strategic alliances, like ensuring that the right people are around the table. If we're making a decision that affects you, you should have a voice in that. And that's some of the things that we've done with generative AI, thanks to Secretary Tong and the governor, making sure that industry, academia, and government are partnering together on that strategic alliance. It's also about empowering people, ensuring that decision-making is pushed down to the right levels across government. And we also want to make sure that we are at the forefront of innovation. I was recently at NASCIO with all of the state CIOs, and I was so proud to hear that the things that we had done on generative AI, that thanks to CalHR and ODI and DGS and of course government agency and the industry, other states were basically taking our artifacts and roadmaps and using it for their states. So that just shows where we can go when we have the right empowering and the right alliances. Today, I am excited to launch Envision 2026, the new state California strategic plan. It is a plan that envisions a future where we are taking technology and connecting all Californians. It is a catalyst for positive change. It is where we are going to establish priorities over the next 2 years. And most of you have seen my imperatives that we've talked about as people first, security always, and lead with purpose. This was important because as we were working on the Envision 2026, we used this as the guiding light, the North Star. Agency CIOs and I rolled up our sleeves and we looked at over 1,700 touch points as we were going and establishing these goals, objectives, and strategies. Secretaries were interviewed, surveys were given out to industry leaders, we talked to directors, CIOs, everyone has been a part and have a fingerprint in where we're going to in the future. But in addition there are 150 state departments. So you probably have about 150 strategic plans out there. So what we wanted to do at our level is to establish alignment, ensure that we are rowing in the same direction so that California, where appropriate on technology, that we are talking the talk and walking the walk. Something that's people-centric, something that retains public trust, and is something that is leading us forward towards our future. The heart of our success is partnership. And we think about the three C's, communication, collaboration, and connection. Because no meaningful change can happen in isolation. If it be tackling business challenges, locking arm in arm with our vendor partners, if it's establishing the alliances with federal and state government, or basically looking at what we need to do with academia and others. California is the 5th largest economy in the world, and the way we achieve success is through a federated model. So what does that mean? Federated model means that every agency and department has a statutory authority and has a very important mission and vision. Department of Technology establishes technology policy, does oversight, provides services, but most of you know that the real successes of technology happen on the front lines of the departments. So it was important that we just didn't establish a plan that sat on a shelf, but it was a plan that was aligned through the agencies and aligned all the way down into the departments. So Envision 2026 respects that alliance and the unique individual need of each department, but it ensures that we are aligned to ensure public trust, that we build a California for all, and we're doing it with inclusive digital services. When I became the state CIO, we had the IT Executive Council. And the IT Executive Council is very important. It's where all the agency CIOs come and meet, and we talk about what CDT is doing well and where there are rooms for improvement when it comes to products and services. But I had a vision that was important, but what I thought was even more important was there where we could take our hats off, and as the state IT leaders of California, we could work as one governing body, where everyone had an equal voice, and we could establish a strategy that we could go to the future together. So we established the State Technology Council. So let's open up what Envision 2026 is going to provide. So again, not only is it a vision that has goals, objectives, strategies, annually we're going to have roadmaps that establish key results and measurable outcomes that we're all going to be targeting. The first goal is advanced and inclusive digital experience for all. This means that technology and services meet the needs of all Californians, regardless of your geography or your access to resources or your background. Most of you know that we're building the middle mile broadband network, which is 8,000 miles of technology, fiber in the ground to connect unserved and underserved communities. We also have digital equity programs where we are increasing digital literacy, not just from a state perspective, but all the way down to the households and communities that need that. Why is this important? In 2022, there was a federal report, and it stated that over 16,000 homes in tribal sovereign nations were unelectrified in the United States. Also in 2022, approximately 8% across our nation of college students, our next generation of leaders, do not have computer access. And in California, 43% of Californians speak a language other than English. And California's amazing. It is a diverse and wonderful and inclusive state, and we have over 200 languages and dialects that are spoken in California. That is 21.7% higher than any other state in the nation. I am proud of that. But when we are government technology or vendors, that means that the digital services we are delivering has to think of them as our constituents and have them in mind. I learned early in my career about human-centered design, but I learned probably the hard way. I've been around a long time, over 3 decades. And I, like most technologists, thought that if you met with the users and you talked to the programs and you got your requirements documented and you didn't have scope creep and you did the technology, and guess what? You delivered exactly what they had signed up for, you were set up for success. Would you agree that that probably is not the case? I learned early on that human-centered design also meant getting out of headquarters, seeing how they're using the technology, also observing and listening more than talking, and prototyping before you code anything. So let me tell you a story of why this goal is one of the goals that are very important to me. I worked at Correctional Healthcare Services, and we had Empire State Building's worth of paper for every inmate patient. We dealt with dental, mental health, medical. We also had nursing, allied health services. Our job was to scan all this paper and get it into electronic record so that we didn't have to have shopping carts or golf carts where we had to take medical records from one appointment to the other, because we did do that, just to let you know. So we did that. We also did a PACS risk system. So we wanted to get the images, because imaging, all that went digital. And so we wanted to be able to provide this to the clinicians. Yay, we talked to all the right people, we got signed off, we implemented. And I went down to California Men's Colony in San Luis Obispo, and I'm with a guard and my team, and we walk into a dentist office area. The dentist is working on a patient. They also had this great computer, right, that we had just set up. All the electronic records were in there. We're all excited. He was looking at the images. He was drilling on the patient. And obviously, you never disturb a dentist when they have a drill and when they're working on anybody. But what we found interesting, or I found interesting initially, is the computer, he kept looking at it, but he kept wiggling the mouse with his foot. So imagine a dentist that has a drill that can wiggle the mouse on the foot. Very, very interesting and a very talented dentist. So we did not disturb him. We let him continue to do what he needed to do. When he was done, I had to ask, why were you wiggling the mouse with your foot? And he said, IT did a great job. They put this, everything onto the computer. But there's this security rule that if you don't use the computer every so many minutes, it locks up and you have to log back in. So human-centered design is not only coding, it's also looking at the environment that they're utilizing it. We rectify that really quickly for them. But it is the importance of ensuring that inclusive services, as we are doing, is enhancing the digital experience. Our second goal is securing California's technology assets. Security is not just an IT issue, it's all of our issue. It doesn't matter if we're doing it from a strategic perspective or we're dealing with day-to-day, it has to be at the forefront of our mind if we're going to protect, detect, and defend California. Because we always talk about it's not an if or when, and when it happens, we have to have the right strategic alliances in place to jump into action. How many of you, when asked, it doesn't matter if I'm being confirmed or going through an interview, I always get asked, and hopefully you are getting asked at this, raise a hands, how many, when asked, what keeps you up at night, you say it is a cybersecurity event? And if you aren't raising your hand, you're lying. So after 30 plus years, I have been on the front lines of a lot of outages, a lot of security incidents. But let me explain to you something that really resonated with me. I had just joined Department of Technology, was working for Secretary Tong, and she says, Liana, there's an issue with Department of Education. You're the state CTO, can you go and help them out? So I called up Department of Education, and there was ransomware that was installed on 3 K-12 schools for the blind and deaf. Because Department of Education, depending on the school, schools, if there's certain ones that actually are part of Department of Education. So CalSIC, everyone jumped into action. We were doing everything right between Cal OES, CHP, Department of Military, ourselves. And we were working with education, and it was so bad we had to build everything from ground up, Active Directory all the way back up. The backups, there was no recovering the system. And we reached out, we had the strategic alliance with Microsoft Dart. We pulled everyone, we were meeting, if not once, twice a day. We were making sure this was coming up on behalf of those, our client. But what resonated with me, because when we think about cyber, we're always thinking about the technology, and even us that are in the training. But what resonated with me was when we started talking about the students. When you have special needs children, I'm a parent, a lot of you are parents in the room, they use technology to interact and engage with their classmates, with their teacher. It wasn't just sending these kids home and just go do your homework and we'll catch up when you get back. Every day, every minute that we were not up, it meant that they weren't able to get the education they deserve. So when we talk about security always, it's important that all of us remember it's not just the incident and the action and all, that's very important. It's about the real people and faces that we are impacting every day when we think about protecting security assets and getting things running. Goal 3, strengthening California's public sector workforce for today and tomorrow. It's important because what you invest in your workforce today is going to be able to address the challenges in the future. September 6, 2023, Governor Gavin Newsom signs Generative AI Executive Order. And obviously there was a lot of work, but a lot of opportunity, not just on the emerging technology, but on the workforce. Between Cal HR and ODI and coming up with some great training that we can make sure we're all up to speed, because today generative AI is going to look very different in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. It is evolving at such a pace, so we got to continue to invest. But it was also an opportunity. At Department of Technology, I support over 150 departments, plus local, about 49 local state entities. And we have staff that support legacy technology, Unix, Linux, mainframe, because they're supporting you. So when we had this opportunity to build a sandbox that everyone was going to be able to do a proof of concept, these are people that, folks that have been working on legacy, they have decades worth of experience. They just haven't been thrown in and just learning something. This takes years to get the skill set. Guess who we tapped? We had 10 of our legacy experts join us on our journey to build the sandbox. And they were the top 10 in California, I believe at that time, that knew more about generative AI than most, and they were able to build the sandbox and move things forward because we invested in them. So you're going to see a lot of that coming in the next 2 years. We just talked about alignment, so out of time, I just want to talk about our last goal, which is future-proofing the business of government. By raise of hands, I know I keep asking you this, but by raise of hands, how many have ever been on a project? Doesn't matter if you're a vendor or if you're a government, that by the time 3, 5, 10 years you were done by your project, you got the solution. People were happy with what you delivered, but you felt that the technology was already outdated. Oh boy, I had a lot more hands on that one. So we need to look at, when we talk about future-proof, we need to ensure that public trust, that systems are available when they need to be available, but it also is inclusive in that it meets them where they are. But it also is about modularity. How do we deliver minimal viable products that evolve at the pace and change and need of legislation, of our constituents, that they're able to get the services they need? And also that we are ready to take advantage of new technology. How many of the vendors in the room that you go talk to someone in government and they say, I've got to finish the project, and then when I'm done with the project, then I'll come and talk to you and look at something in relation to new technology? No one wants to really raise their hand on that one. But with modularity and actually scaling up will allow us to take advantage. So as the innovation is ready, we are ready then to be able to take that advantage of that from a government perspective. You have heard about us talk, I know Secretary Tong and I both have talked about CAL FIRE and the AI cameras. Future-proofing, a good example, I say, would be CAL FIRE. So October 24th, I saw the headlines. We've talked about this in the past, but this is very recent. October 24th, Industry Insider, the headline says, AI cameras detected. Called in fire before 911. The source was the Tribune News Services. The article quoted someone, so this is what he said. A computer somewhere just said, you have a fire. That's pretty impressive to me, and it speaks to where we're heading with technology. So CAL FIRE put out a wildfire in the county of San Luis Obispo, but no 911 calls were ever made. Not one, not two, none. Instead, the AI cameras detected a smoke and notified through a text the local fire departments before it ever became an inferno. So by the time someone sees the smoke and has to call 911, you can cost lives, you can cost natural resources. They said if the fire had been allowed to burn for even a half an hour without someone seeing it, it would have grown to a few hundred acres in size. So when we're future-proofing government, it means not just on the technology, but we're future-proofing to make sure that we are saving lives and resources that are dear to California. So in summary, when it comes to our goals, put human back in the technology. We have to remember that we are serving vulnerable populations, and we need to enhance all California digital experience. We need to prioritize security always. We need to invest in our workforce because they are our future. Think beyond today, future-proof for tomorrow. And lastly, envision a 2026 where we are in alignment, that not everyone is in siloed, but we are in alignment through leadership, collaboration, services, and delivery. So my 3 calls of action to you is innovate using a diverse mindset, because California's success story is not built on one agency, one team, or one vendor. It is a symphony of partnerships. 2, design for people, not policies. This is coming from the policy person, so I'm just telling you. Technology is only as powerful as the people that we are doing technology for. And lastly, lead with purpose, act with vision, because purpose is not a goal, it is a compass. And let it guide you on your decision making so people are thanking you 5, 10, 15 years from now. So thank you for being a part of our vision. If you haven't read Envision 2026, we do have a panel, we'll be talking about it. Please, thank you for making California a global leader. And because of you, we will build a future that California deserves. Thank you very much.